vote to grant parole when eligible. And that will conclude this hearing.
Thank you.
A very happy OJ Simpson in Nevada. A parole board granting his release, citing his model behavior in prison before the unanimous decision was handed out. Simpson insisted he has learned his lesson after spending nearly 9 years behind bars for his role in an armed robbery and kidnapping. Jordan Donich is here as the criminal defense lawyer. Going to talk a little bit about this. What we need to do is we need to separate the law from emotion in this case.
Right, and that's correct. We have to understand here that the law operates on reason, on principles and logic, and this isn't a court of emotion and public opinion, right? And that's what this decision shows. This decision reminds us of the principles and fundamental system that we operate on.
The parole board of Nevada got hundreds of letters from people saying, don't let him out. He killed his ex-wife and Ronald Goldman. Don't let him out.
But it's not about that. It's not about letters. It's not about what they think happened. The bottom line is, and the basis for this decision is that there was a trial. Facts were determined. Evidence was examined. And it was determined that he wasn't guilty and he was acquitted, and that ought to not influence the process of his parole.
When we watched that yesterday, and we all did, is there significant differences between a parole hearing and a parole board in the U.S. as opposed to a Canadian parole board?
So, fundamentally, no, it's the same process. However, in Canada, we do have a factor that will assess the risk to the public if someone were to be released. And this is a situation here with, this particular offense that a member could perhaps ask questions about what happened prior, about the context. And I'll give you an example. We'll do a hypothetical here. I have a sports car, and I'm driving 180 on the Gardner. I'm stopped. I get caught street racing. I go to trial. I win on some technicality. Just because I won and I'm not convicted doesn't mean I'm not a street racer. Doesn't mean I'm not a danger on the road. And that's what likely would be considered by the parole board here.
So if you had gone to prison for another crime committed later on, you would come up to parole, that they could possibly say, but you know what? There was this one incident which didn't factor into the original case.
Right, and that's the point. This is a holistic analysis, okay? It's not the same as a court. So that works good and bad. It can favor the accused if perhaps there's weaknesses, but in such a case like this, they could maybe try to gather in information that was otherwise excluded.
It was obvious this was a revenge sentence. It became very obvious the fact he got 9 to 33 years. Would that have been taken in as a factor by the parole board when they said, wait, this was definitely a revenge sentence?
Right, so the sentence is unusual. He wouldn't have got 9 years here in Canada, right? And that's...
Or in the States, really, when he goes right down.
And that's already an example of a guy that, maybe he didn't do something and he's still being punished for it.
But should the parole board consider the original decision from the court as being too tough?
I think so. Yeah. Yes, 9 years is a lot of time. 10 years is a decade. I mean, 10 years ago I was probably close to high school, right? That's a long time ago.
Yeah, that's enough of you now. Okay. Thanks for being. You know what? It's an interesting debate, and there's so much more to this. Even this many years later, the OJ Simpson still is on our minds.
Yes, and it will continue. And he's going to have, and this is his life. And this is unfortunately what happens when you're a celebrity and you're involved with the law. It can be a life sentence.
Jordan Donich, thank you very much for this.
Thanks.
We'll be back
Thanks
with
very
more
much.
Breakfast Television after this.